Welcome to What I'm Watching Wednesday for 2018. This is where I show you 10 YouTube channels that I've been following this year. This week on What I'm Watching Wednesday, I am watching Rad Rat's video.
Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, the channel where you can learn something new about skateboarding 3 times a week. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we take a look at something in the skateboarding world.
Now, you might recall that in the last 6 months, I've had ongoing injuries on this elbow ever since the Revolution Action Sports Concept Christmas Ramp Jam where I took a slam. Well, not long after that injury, I made the hard decision to stop skateboarding entirely. And then one night while recovering with the elbow, I was on YouTube and I just did a bit of a search for how long generally people can skateboard for, and I landed on this channel, Rad Rat Video. Now, this channel is the work of a guy called Aaron Lawrence, and whilst most of his skateboarding is slow-paced, one-off, fluky, flippity-dippity tricks, he does have an extremely presentable manner, and he can deliver news and reviews and history lessons about skateboarding to a wide audience. Some of the interesting topics I found on his channel include whether Hawk actually stole the 900 from Taz Pappas.
Taz says he was getting really close to landing a 900 in the years leading up to those X Games, and he was planning on doing it at the X Games the same year that Tony Hawk actually did it. And the thing is, Tony Hawk knew he was going to do it, so he kept him out of it. He studied his technique and he learned from him. Taz was not the first person to get close to a 900, and not the first one to attempt it either. When asked about it, Tony Hawk says that he tried a 900 for the first time in '87, and he didn't really get that close to it, decided to put it on the back burner for a while. And then next was actually Danny Way. So in Risk It in 1990, Danny Way gets really close to a 900. A lot of people actually think that he landed it, but if you look closely, it's in super slow motion and cuts really fast. So it's pretty obvious that he didn't actually roll away all the way, but he at least showed that it's possible. He put wheels down on it. A couple years after that, in '96, Tony Hawk also has a sequence of him doing a 900 landing on wheels, but he fell and he broke his rib. So that's the thing. There were a lot of people trying the trick at the time, including Sluggo. So he was a gymnast, really good at knowing how to spin his body and that kind of thing. Tony Hawk says if he was going to take technique from anybody, it would have been Sluggo.
Who did the first Nardis spin? Was it Nardis?
Recently, Mike V posted this really interesting sequence on Instagram of him olling up onto a pole, spinning around and landing it, what you might know as a Nardis spin. But what's really interesting is that this is from 1988. A year before Nardis did it. Did Mike V invent the Nardis spin?
What happened to Frankie Hill?
Frankie Hill was a really big name in skateboarding. He was probably as big as Gonz or Nardis in the influence he had, although he doesn't get nearly as much respect as them. He was doing the same type of stuff, but just twice as big. So he definitely deserves a lot of respect. And even if you don't know too much about his skating, he probably inspired the skater who inspired the skater who inspired the skater who is now your favorite pro. So there's definitely a lot to thank Frankie for. So let's get into his career.
And who was the first skateboarder to ever do a handrail?
Where has handrail skateboarding come from? Is it possible that it wasn't Gonz? The story that most people know dates back to sometime in the 80s at the Oceanside Amphitheater. There's a stage there with a 5-set, and Nardis Kalpis very famously attempted a board slide on it. He didn't land it, he didn't even come close to landing it, but it was a brand new idea for a lot of people who saw it.
And that's just the surface on how far he digs. He also goes and looks at historical gear from skateboarding. He looked at such things as bridge bolts.
They clip over your deck and they take the place of 2 bolts each.
And Grind King kingpins.
Grind King was originally just a kingpin. It was not an individual truck. Took the kingpin design as it was, inverted it, and it was smaller, it was lower profile, and it was a lot heavier duty steel.
So what will you find if you go over to Rad Rat Video and give him your sub? Well, if you've ever been a skateboarder, or if you've ever set foot on a skateboard and you want to learn more about the sport, this channel will certainly help you out. I hope that you liked this episode and that you'll also go and check out the creator I featured. And if you like what I'm doing here on this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Check out my latest vlog here and a random vlog there. There's also a bunch of ways you can contribute to the channel financially in the description down below if you feel that way inclined. What's that? We're out of time? That's